cherry, mango, banana waffle. Mine's just mango and cherry. And I'm gonna be talking about that briefly, and then I'm gonna put you over to James, because I realize I've been hogging the camera. So it says hand harvested and potted by hand. That's those peas that have 2 bags that are attached with a little piece of twine, and it's obviously some silly marketing, right? You don't get very many peas there. They put a lot of effort into the packaging, and you have to wonder why. And so anyway, I talked about this a couple days ago, and I forgot to mention the most important part. Hand harvested and potted by hand, they put that on there, so they know that's a selling feature for whoever is buying it, which we didn't buy, we got it for free. So why do you want your products hand harvested and potted by hand? This is peas that here in Lethbridge, they grow peas in the fields nearby. You can get locally grown peas that have not been hand harvested, and they have not been potted by hand. They are mechanically harvested and potted. Which, do you want a person as a slave, or do you want a machine as a slave for you? Really, that's what it comes down to. And the people who made that product, they realized that some people would rather have humans do the harvesting and potting for them rather than a machine. Isn't it better to teach humans so that they can do things that can't be done by machines nowadays? You can harvest a whole lot of peas around here, and you don't have to waste all the fuel in shipping them. You can buy peas that are locally grown here, harvested by machines. And they taste better than those, because those are disgusting. Anyway, so that's what I was going to say about that. And then we were talking about what was this? Microaggressions. And we forgot to tell you the most important thing about that so we were hearing about microaggressions on the radio. And apparently the microaggressions against various religious groups has went down.
No, this is hate crimes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, hate crimes. Sorry, I'm tired.
This is I believe in Canada.
I think Canada. So hate crimes against religious people have went down, and hate crimes.
That's during the last 2 years.
Yeah, hate crimes against especially Black people and Asian people have went up. And why would that be?
I think that's East Asian, but it might be Asian. Yeah, go on.
I don't know. I don't know if they specified.
Yeah.
I think East Asian too, but I don't know. I don't know if they specified. Anyway, so we're looking at that and we're thinking, well, could it be that Canadians, rather than being offensive, the ones who are interested in acting out hate crimes, could it be that rather than offensive, they're acting defensively? And you might be upset by hearing me say that. But this is just since, mind you, there's been a lot of people from Africa imported into Canada in recent years. And perhaps that has something to do with it. We're hearing a lot about slavery and stuff like that, and it's like, well, that's not Canadians. We were the end of the Underground Railroad to get slaves out of southern United States, in the southeast corner of the United States predominantly, because it wasn't all of the United States either. The North, they weren't into slavery. And why was that? You can look into it yourself, and I think that really there's people from the outside involved with politics who are interested in trying to divide Canada. Why? Because the future wars are not going to be fought over oil. As much as this seems like oil is a huge thing right now, the future wars are going to be fought over water. What does Canada have? A lot of fresh water. A lot of it. And if you look at the names of plantation owners and stuff from southern United States, you will notice something interesting about it. And if you look at who was keeping slaves in the United States, you'll notice something interesting, a pattern about that. Now, I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to divide Canada. But I think this is really what's going on more than anything. There's a political attack on the West, which is United States and Canada. But I think it's an attack on Canada more than the United States. But it's both, right? But here in Canada, when you're hearing all this stuff on the radio, and they were talking about, my last blog post was about this. I'm sure it wasn't received well, but I haven't been able to see it because I don't have a home computer or anything. So I have no idea what you thought about that. But I was talking about how certain bodies are promoting racism. And they're aggressive propagandists who are doing it. And anyway, they're making up things that really didn't happen. There wasn't slavery. So they're talking about aggressions, like hate crimes towards various people. Now, when you hear that on the radio, what do you think automatically? I bet you're thinking white Protestant involved with creating hate crimes. Maybe Catholic, because we have been hearing a lot about the residential schools. But in any case, you're probably thinking white. Why would you think that? Stereotype. And
white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Yeah. So you've been encouraged to actually think that over the years. And you've been encouraged to look at Canadian people from Africa as having been slaves of those white Canadians. Why? The white Canadians, they had nothing to do with slavery. I looked into it when I was a teenager, because when you're a teenager, you want to be against your society, you want to be against your parents and think, you guys were all backward and whatever. And I found something interesting. Not much of it. It was very, very few, and there was actually a cultural lean to that too, if you look into it. Anyway, so Canada, this is where people came. They didn't go south. They didn't go to South America or Central America to try to escape slavery in southern United States.
Brazil, I think slavery lasted longer than it did even in the southern United States.
They came here. Now, with the people, you're seeing a lot of African Canadians around lately. They weren't here 50 years ago. They've been imported. And they haven't been imported from the United States. They've been imported from Africa. So they were not our slaves. Not our parents' slaves, not our grandparents' slaves. So why is this being hammered at us? It's strange, isn't it? Anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about, wasn't it?
So, yeah, there was a small amount of slavery in Canada.
I think
Canada was still part of the British Empire, but the British Empire got rid of the slave trade. I think somewhere around 1807 or something like that. And I think it was got rid of slavery in the British Empire, at least de jure, and according to law, about 1837. which is pretty late. It's only a generation before the United States technically got rid of it. A little less, actually. So it's and you know that there are some reports of, for example, in Halifax, a fairly late something like apartheid, like different areas for blacks in movie theaters and things like that. I think it's movie theaters that late, you know, but theaters at the very least. So it's not something to be proud about. I think one thing that should be pointed out is when it comes to black slavery, the stats I got indicate European powers over a relatively short period of time, it was long, but a short period of time, brought something like 11 million slaves black slaves into the New World. Or maybe a few into places like England and so on and so forth, mainly in the New World. And that would include the United States doing it. Various Muslims, well, I'm going to go with a lower figure, 15 million. Oh, that's more than European. Of course, they're doing it for a lot longer period of time. And so if you want to contest that, okay, let's bargain. 20 million. You don't like the 15 million, let's go with the 20 million. One or the other. And the 20 million I get from a guy called Al Gabri. And Al is not short for Alan. Okay? That's a Muslim name. I don't know where this guy Al Gabri hails from. Oh, this guy, might be one. But he just says it's 20 million. So you want to bargain? You know, I'm bargaining up, not down. I'm going to be bargained up, not bargained down. But you know, the Muslims didn't have quinine, Persians, Arabs, and the Europeans didn't have quinine until quite late. I don't think, you know, Dave Livingstone was stomping around Africa. He was actually stomping with a pretty light foot, but from what I've read, could be wrong, the sources could be wrong. But I don't know, 1840s? Oh, the Brits had already got rid of, I think it was from Scotland maybe, but he was a Brit, not an English person maybe, but his name seems English. But, you know, he was stomping around the interior. I don't know if he had quinine. Eventually died, I think, of some sort of tropical disease. Somewhere around the eastern part, perhaps, of present-day Tanzania. Tanzania, however you want to pronounce it. So, you know, Europeans and Caucasians, I think, generally, and that would include, yes, Arabs and Persians, they wouldn't go into the interior. Let's add those figures up. 15, 11 million, 26 million. $26 million. Those slaves were provided by black people from the interior of Africa. The biggest black slavers of all were blacks themselves. They weren't imperialized, much less colonized, until really, really late. Most places, like Algeria, when was it taken over, imperialized officially by the French? I think it was 1830s. Let's say 1830. Well, the Brits had basically got, I don't know, I think the French had got rid of slavery even before then. I think this technically were supposed to have gotten rid of it after the French Revolution, 1789. And Algeria is not black. People there, Berbers, Tuaregs, and stuff like that, they're not very dark in color. You see, the biggest slavers of all, and like no one, so far as I know, has really done a good study on how much black on black slavery, like slaves who weren't exported, was being conducted within Africa itself. Cause for further research and a cause for further, there'll be a lot of whining and crying on the part of Fogoshi's, because the real slavers they're not even Muslims. So it's like, it's the worst. It's the craziness. Absolute craziness. You guys are a bunch of loser liars. You Fogoshis, going around stereotyping the West as being slavers, being capitalists. Someone recently was talking about Putin being a capitalist. Putin, as better analysts have it, is a latter-day Tsar, or Khazar, or however you want to mispronounce it. Caesar. He's a latter-day Caesar. He doesn't think like a capitalist. He doesn't act like a capitalist. Let's look at the stereotypical, archetypal capitalist Americans. Before World War II, they had, I think, the third biggest country in the world, and they had the 17th biggest army. It's only in the wake of World War II and the threat of nuclear weapons and the Cold War and the commies and all that sort of stuff, and seeing what happened with unpreparedness vis-a-vis Hitler, all the world basically vis-a-vis Hitler, that they're going, okay, we're going to have a huge army. Thank heavens they've got a huge army. I think it's supposed to be the biggest army, maybe not the biggest standing army, but the most powerful army in the world. Thank heavens, because Lord only knows where Putin would stop. When you get a guy like Putin, when you get a guy like Hitler, their only natural borders are set up by a countervailing force. That's the only thing that stops them. So thank heavens. Thank heavens for NATO. You hearing that, all you faux gauchers or gauchis or whatever you don't want to be styled as? It's only the threat of NATO that's keeping Putin from walking into wherever, Germany, wherever. Not just the former Soviet Union states and things like that, like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland. Used to be part of the Russian Empire. I've been told by someone who knows a Finnish person, so this is kind of like secondhand. There's a Finnish person that's afraid that, here in Canada, is afraid that Finland is one of the next on Putin's menu. This little bear that looks like a teddy bear. It's not a teddy bear. Now, people are surprised about what's happening in Ukraine. Most people. They say over 90% of Mariupol, and I think it's a city of 200,000. I've heard someone say 400,000. I think they just got carried away. They say 90% of it's been flattened. That's interesting. And people are going, wow, where's this coming from? Yeah, check out what Putin was doing for the his Syrian cat's paws, the Alawites who are ruling over, or misruling over Syria. He was flattening places, I believe, like Homs and Hama and things like that. Check out what he did in Chechnya. Flattened Grozny. This is what he does. This is his fallback strategy when his strategies don't work out that well. I don't know if I've been mentioning it to Pauline. you know, like I kind of like read about this stuff. What? I don't know what Biden is doing. You know, like he should have been cozying up to the Arabs, Saudis, trying to make up. This after the invasion, Russian invasion, the latest Russian invasion in Ukraine. You know, they haven't been there a long time. I think it goes back to Catherine the Great. And Catherine the Great came to power something like 1762 or something like that. Now that seems like a long time ago, but in the long durée of history, that's a short time. They don't have a right to that place. They're closely related in terms of language, but in terms of culture, they're not closely related. At least, you know, like mindset.
It actually is pretty cold out here.
It's pretty cool. If you want to go in, yeah, I'm
kinda
starting
do.
to shiver. I'm really wrapped up. So.
Unless you have something more to talk about.
We can shut it down. We've got more to talk about because Russia will keep on doing this horrible stuff that they're doing in Ukraine.